Hello, this is Debra Baker with the CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, where we bring you the latest updates and insights from the tech world. I'm your host, Debra Baker with Trusted CISO. I provide strategic cybersecurity advisory services as a virtual chief information security officer, also known as vCISO. I also want to welcome my new co-host, Isabella Otero. Hey, Isabella, I'm so excited. I've got a co-host now.
Hey, Debra, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to co-host with you.
Yeah, this is going to be great. So it's going to be much more interesting for the podcast. So we were going to initially talk about the AT&T hack. And then this morning, all over the news, YouTube, Twitter, X, it's all about major tech outages globally. And so, right away I wanted to see what in the world is going on. First, the first thing I thought is there's some sort of attack. What's happening? And, the first place that I saw this was on YouTube. And we went in, we watched and this was like major, like NBC, MSNBC, not just, the tech sites. And right away, they said that there was these major outages at airports. Airlines are down. It's just all across.
I heard some banks and I believe some healthcare, insurance companies were also affected.
Okay. And they said it had to do with CrowdStrike, which anybody that knows about cybersecurity probably most likely heard of CrowdStrike because they are like the number one endpoint in detection and response. And they're like the Mercedes-Benz of security. I mean, if you want the best of the best. So it was just shocking to hear that it was, had to do with CrowdStrike. That's not, normally it's like, maybe they've called in CrowdStrike. So that was a big surprise, definitely. So what did you think when you heard?
Yeah, so I actually didn't hear about it until this morning. I know that the attack, not the attack, the outages happened yesterday around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, just this morning, I thought, I was like, oh my gosh, everything's everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, there was a security breach, like something happened, either like ransom attack or something crazy. And then come to find out it was just, a server outage from, a potential bad update.
Yeah. So that was the first thing in my mind when I heard that it was an update that CrowdStrike had that they, sent out to everyone. And I thought, oh, quality assurance. I mean, it's just, I would say it's the most lackluster, ignored, probably not enough people in quality assurance. It's just like, well, let's just test this, this, that, or whatever, rush it through. It's more about speed, getting the updates out, that kind of thing. And I was just like, oh no, it's just, I'm sorry. I'm so over the quality assurance because there's just so many bugs in our software. And a lot of it is just not taking that extra time to do the testing, and obviously somehow something got skipped.
Yeah.
And it didn't get tested. They said it was certain. I saw the CEO of CrowdStrike on NBC this morning. And I mean, he said certain versions of Windows were fine. Other versions, it's just blue screen of death. And so, it could have been we don't know. It could have just been a percentage. They just, that they test and not every single version. But obviously, mistake was definitely made. And this automatically went out to everyone. And this is the thing on the customer side is normally we say have automatic updates turned on, because when you want to get those latest updates, you want to make sure you have the latest software. But the problem is if you do have the latest updates and you do have it automatic, in this case with this bug, now these Windows machines are just going down, and you have to go into safe mode, delete this file. There's all of this you have to do manually in order to get it back up again. So this would be these Windows servers, these Windows laptops, so it's like, oh my goodness. I'm just like, so we actually have a friend at the airport in Florida, and she said Delta's down, and it's a mess. Her flight's going to be delayed. And and that's what you're seeing on the news and everything too. There's just these widespread outages, and now there's teams of people that are going to have to go out and fix these machines. So CrowdStrike, the CEO, said that they've already got the fix, but these still machines have to be recovered, and they have to get the new fix on and everything. So it's going to be a manual process. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it's been a lot of blue screens, the BSOD, the blue screen of death. And, people cannot get into their systems and, fix this issue.
Right.
And, going back, Debra, I actually have a question for you. So are you one of those people, like on your personal computers and even for work? I know sometimes, there is some sort of, device management system, depending on who you work for, that you're not allowed to, make those updates or have it on automatic updates. Typically, sometimes companies are the ones to push it out. But you personally, on your personal devices, do you have it set to automatic, or do you
Yes, and
manually
now
do
I'm
them?
thinking, I tell people on my YouTube, I say set it to automatic, but now I'm thinking, no, you need to, especially organizations need to go back and not have the automatic update to where they can actually, at least they need to be able to test the update before they push it out to everyone.
Correct. Yeah.
And so if there's a way to configure it that way to where even the end user, I know, because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I probably shouldn't say have the automatic update anymore, even though you really want, that's, but ideally if the software is going to be working and all of that, but because there could be a bug in the, in the software. And of course, this takes me back to the SolarWinds, where their code was actually hacked and had a back door put in, but there wouldn't be any way you wouldn't have known.
Right.
You as the customer, it was so sophisticated and everything.
Right.
But yeah, it's making me think, probably don't do the automatic updates and just wait. And I used to do that with my, because I am an Apple. I've got a Apple MacBook, and actually my manager when I was at Cisco was like, don't just automatically do the updates. He's like, and plus even at Cisco, there were so many other applications even that you had to be running and all of this. And he just said, don't just automatically wait, so when they come out with a new release, wait a month or two and just make sure that everybody's saying that there's no problems.
Correct.
So, and then, so I would always kind of like stay, I would not be the first one, when they have a new release or a new version. I would wait definitely, probably like a month to see what people said before I would upgrade. And so I know after this, I'm thinking probably need to go back to don't just do the automatic updates, just wait. And, kind of, if you don't hear anything, even
You don't
just
hear
like
anything, that's a
wait.
good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's okay. It's okay.
And
So,
as someone who previously worked for, Apple Inc., I have always been, a person that has never used automatic updates. I always tend to wait. Especially I'm kind of like that person that I'm like, hey, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. So I'll
yeah,
wait
yeah,
for the updates, see if there are any bugs and things like that. Um, you know, I think it's great if you are someone who is tech savvy. I feel like for, most consumers and, people that may not keep up with their devices as, often as us techie people do,
hmm
it can get, a little tricky at that point. And especially I feel like for big companies, the like people that were affected by, the incident recently, they typically have those automatic updates because, they're like, okay, yes, security patches are coming through. All these good fixes are coming. We want them as soon as they come out.
right.
But, something like this could potentially happen.
Yeah, yeah. So I am thinking let's dial back the auto update. Let's wait, especially if you're an organization, wait a few days, make sure, and then you can, send it out versus. So you said it actually went out yesterday at
Hmm.
3 p.m. Yeah, because there was something I heard, and it was on one of the news channels, and they were saying it was like last night at 10 p.m. But it
Yeah.
may have been, it took that much time that these outages started happening as it started rolling out.
And they have to look back and evaluate and look back to all their logs and say, okay, when did this, happen?
Yeah, yeah. So,
But yeah. I know there was a recent update. I saw that CrowdStrike put out around 9:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this morning. So um, I provided you the link. Didn't even know if you had a chance to look at it. If you didn't, that's okay.
okay,
Um,
yeah, I hadn't looked at it yet.
all good, but it's essentially, giving fixes to, consumers, and kind of giving them almost like a step by step kind of like workaround to see if they can, get into their system. In the meantime, till they, I would imagine mass send out that patch and update. Um,
Okay,
but
okay.
yeah, and then, of course, they're recommending if you can do a rollback to, the most previous update that you had. So I think that's
Okay.
probably going to be the best route for most people out there right now is to do a
Yeah.
rollback. And they haven't really announced which Windows operating systems. Like, have you seen anything like Windows 10, 11, or
Right.
anything
I
like that?
I saw, yeah, the CEO talking about it. He did say it only affects some, but yeah, I don't
Mhm.
know the exact ones that it does affect.
Yeah, I don't think they put that out there yet, but I'm
Yeah.
sure they will. They'll get to it when they figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the Wall Street shows, they were like, "Oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad for CrowdStrike." So it's definitely going to hurt their
Their
um
reputation a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, their reputation, yeah.
I mean, they're so well known and like for my current job now as, a payment card industry and, consultant and working within the cybersecurity field, of the payment card industry, a lot of our clients use CrowdStrike. And like in recent years, even I've, looked into potentially like getting a job at CrowdStrike.
Yeah,
And it's a little, scary.
yeah, yeah. I so when I first started doing the virtual CISO, when went on my own, started trusted CISO with one of my first customers, I talked to them about CrowdStrike. Well, a mentor of mine, who he's now the CTO of North America at Splunk, he said, Debra, don't recommend CrowdStrike to a startup just because it's so expensive. And he said, depending on how big the company is, their budget, and since you're typically working with startups, I don't recommend that. I recommend like Sentinel One or Bitdefender, just something, that isn't that expensive. And
Right.
then I went to the SANS CISO boot camp that they had at RSA. And I mean, this was like 6 weeks later. And the first thing the speaker said is that he just got done meeting with a startup that had fired their CISO because the CISO had recommended CrowdStrike and it was so expensive. And they just like once they got it rolled out and everything, they didn't have the budget for it. So I just because of my customer base, I do have one customer that does use CrowdStrike, and they already had it. And actually, this morning, they're on the West Coast, but I was like texting them
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, I just heard about this," so they would know. And there's
It's
this
like, hey, I'm looking
workaround.
out for you and your company.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, just like you said, like CrowdStrike is like the Mercedes Benz,
Yes.
of the industry. And, people sometimes you got to start out with a Prius, and work your way up. And, especially as a startup company, like, yes, it is one of the, most widely used, program out there, but you kind of got to weigh your options. I feel like you have to get up higher on the food chain and then, okay, say, hey, let me look at my other options.
Yeah.
Now, CrowdStrike is also great for big companies, but also it can be, scary for big companies because if something like this were to happen, they're losing thousands, millions of dollars being down for however many, hours, minutes. Like you
Right.
lose money if systems are down, servers are down.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, this is availability. So now, that's basically you don't have availability. Now they do not have an agent for Linux servers. So people that are on Linux, they're fine. They're
Yeah.
they're up and they're
They're
running.
like, we're good.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the Windows servers, it's the Windows laptops, it's those particular versions.
Oh, it was Mac as well.
Oh, is it?
Yes. So on CrowdStrike's website, yes. It says Mac and
Okay.
Linux hosts were not impacted.
Okay. So, yeah, so
Yeah, so Mac and Linux users are like, "Oh, good luck, Microsoft."
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I came up through the networking ranks and learned Linux, and then I was at IBM and everything was AIX. And so to me, it was like, well, if you had a server, it needed to be on some sort of Unix. I mean, that was just, and but of course that there's tons of Windows servers out there, and yeah, it's just like
Yeah, it was an
yeah,
intense morning for sure,
yeah,
everyone finding out and it just kind of just blowing up and they kind of almost made it seem like it was, like it had impacted, like people's information, like there was a security breach, or like a data leak or something like that.
oh right, yeah, on the news, yeah, the
Yeah.
way the headlines were, that's why right away I thought, oh gosh, is this like a DDoS attack? Is this
Mhm.
ransomware attack? Like what's happening? Is the cloud down? What
Me too.
and
I was so tense this morning. I'm like, what's going on? And then as I was reading and I was like, oh, okay. It's not that bad. It's still
right,
not
right.
great.
Yeah. I guess like all the incident response firms like are probably doing really good right now because if these companies need help, They're
Yeah.
probably having to call like different contractors and stuff like that to come in and get these machines up and running, especially like if you're in an airport. I mean, I just can
Yeah.
imagine like sitting there and like your flight's down
Yes.
because of this stupid thing.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
just like, ah.
I mean,
So,
if you're someone like Joanna that you're stuck in Florida, that's great. But if
well,
you're like,
yeah, yeah. You're stuck in Florida. Okay, yeah. That's not.
but but even my uncle, he's a pilot, and he will not be getting home tonight because of this incident. He was
Uh,
supposed to fly back and get here at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and everything's down. They're not able to figure out, when they're going to get the planes up and running and,
okay, okay.
flights up and going. So,
Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
he's gonna be stuck.
Yeah, he'll be stuck for a while.
Uh,
But hopefully, they said, like I said at the update this morning, they pretty much are getting everything back up and running. Um, but yeah, I just don't know where they stand at this moment. Like you said, having to get the contractors out there, like how fast can they do that?
right,
Like it's going to
right,
take,
right.
a bit.
Yeah, it's
I'm
gonna
sure
take.
they're going to target those major areas first, like airports.
Right, yeah, yeah. Get them up first.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But so what do you think that, these companies should do to potentially prevent, these incidents from happening?
Yeah, we've got to get our quality assurance. Um, more emphasis on quality assurance, actually testing. Not. I mean, I don't know what the normal, I mean, if you were just going to do a subset, 20%, normally you could say, well, we're just going to test 20%. But whatever it is, we need to do better.
Yep.
And there's such a push of, these sprints and getting out the new versions and getting these updates. And this really changed like a couple of years ago where there was just, the DevOps and the dev, you know,
Mhm.
pushing the speed. And at the time, I can't remember, there was a whole book about it, and they were like, "Oh, I know you're concerned. There's going to be more bugs, but that's not going to happen." And I'm like, "Well, prove it to me, because if you go and look at the number of vulnerabilities, it just continues to go up."
Mhm.
And I've seen it just with different companies I've worked with, software companies. There's just such an emphasis to, make that deadline, get that new release out. And it's just quality assurance really gets, it doesn't get the focus that it should.
Right.
And we also need to have some sort of, and there may be programs that go, I mean, I know you can go and, you check your code for vulnerabilities and things like that. But it seems like there's a real issue where if there is a bug and then it gets fixed and then it gets reintroduced into the code.
Mhm.
And there was actually another, and we can talk about this next week, but there was another one. There was like an OpenSSH one that was huge. And it's like this backdoor for OpenSSH. And when they announced it, they had the fix. And this was like in February. And they said, well, don't worry, it's already been patched. Now we're telling you there's been this backdoor in OpenSSH for like however many years, but don't worry. But then it just got reintroduced. So like last week, there was this massive, for this one CVE, and because now it got reintroduced back into the code. And I saw this a lot of times, and I'm sure this is at every software company. Like when I was at Cisco, I saw that happen a lot of times where we'd get it fixed and then it would get reintroduced. So if there's like programs, that could check that, they could go back and check that we're not like reintroducing, a previously fixed CVE, and then just testing. I mean, I don't know in this instance, what specifically, if it was a memory leak or whatever, but obviously whatever the scans they were doing of the code, it didn't, check it. And then they didn't test on those versions of Windows. They probably did like a certain amount of the operating systems and just
said, okay, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you want to make those dates and everything. And so I'm just
I think the key takeaway from this is, the importance of robust testing, for updates to prevent issues like this in the future. There's so many companies that they're not focusing in the right areas. Like they don't realize that, something as potentially little as, security updates and patches can affect you in the long run and could affect you hard.
Right. The same as having like a major attack.
Right.
It's like, what? Yeah, definitely. So, but this has been so great. I'm super excited. And definitely, we're going to do this every Friday now. And so it's so great to have you on, and we'll just keep everyone up to date with the latest, what's going on with the hacks and what they can do to secure their organizations.
Yeah, thanks. Great. Debra, again, thank you so much. And then we will be back next week.
Okay, great.
All right, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to pick up a copy of my book, A CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, available on Amazon. And remember to stay cyber resilient.